Let's talk.
Giles Brown.
Busy idiots learning the brain science and productivity hacks to get ahead without the stress in a world that demands constant connectedness. Why do we sometimes feel lonelier, more burned out, and just generally more disengaged and that's a technical term, than ever before? Well, my next guest perhaps can tell me a little more about this because he's a speaker, researcher, author, psychologist, productivity expert, and he's into corporate well-being as well. He is Brad Marshall, and he joins us all the way from the other side of the world this morning. Brad, good morning from us. Good afternoon to you.
Yeah, good evening to me, actually. Yeah, it's a bit nice to be here, Giles. Thank you.
Whereabouts are you, Brad? Are you East Coast, West Coast? Whereabouts are you today, then?
I'm coming from East Coast Australia, so just about an hour north of Sydney here.
Yeah, well, I'm not really that much jealous. Right then, so we have never been so connected. We have never been so available. We have never been able to be so productive. And yet, if you speak to your friends off social media, how are you feeling? They go, I'm tired, I'm down, I just feel a general, and here we go again, meh feeling to the world. So what's happening, Brad?
Well, I guess, you know how we seem busier than ever? We're sort of bouncing from one meeting to the next, especially in the workplace. And, you know, we help people break free from digital distraction and busy work. And that's what Busy Idiots is all about. So we want people to feel more fulfilled at work and in life. And we do that by combining neuroscience and sort of real world productivity skills for people. So that's what Busy Idiots is about. It's about tackling this busyness pandemic, as we call it. And it's amazing because it challenges the culture that being busy is good and empowers individuals to sort of prioritize the work that really matters. And the benefits are quite simple. We create happier employees and more productive and profitable businesses ultimately. So we're on a mission to tackle busyness, myself and my co-author, Joff Outlaw.
Because it's very easy to the world is full of TED Talks and people, Gary Vee saying, I get up at, I go to bed at 2:00, I get up at 2:30 and I stay at work immediately and go. It's very easy to look busy, but it's not the quantity of the work. Surely it's the quantity. It's putting things, in order to make sure that you're not sort of, here we go, technical, mucking around and seeming busy and then having no work-life balance, surely.
Well, I mean, as I said before, Giles, we glorify in the modern workplace this idea of being busy, running around with our heads cut off and sort of doing a million things and multitasking and not being great at any of them. And as you mentioned, part of the issue is this sort of hustle culture that has been glorified as well in the last 5 or 10 years. And I guess we come at it from a very different perspective. We come at it from this idea of there's no need for us to be running around, and being busy is not always being productive. So that doesn't always mean we're doing deep work and meaningful work. And we've also lost the art of communication. And part of that was due to, COVID and all of our experiment there, but just that real connection and communication that we've lost as well. So we seem to be so stressed and so burnt out. That's the byproduct of this. And we want to push people back into, let's do meaningful work, deep work, and then actual connection with our family and friends.
Is there a dopamine? Is there a neuro thing that goes off when you're online and you hit that button and your project or your social media post goes off? And that is the short term, yippee, I'd rather do more of that than the actual, what I call the grind, which is doing the paperwork, showing up in the office, all the stuff that you want to put away, which you should always do first because then you can enjoy your day. But those little hits of, well, I'm sorry, I should have done that project, but look at the social media thing, or look at my engagement on this. Is that a problem that we're seeing more of, Brad?
Yeah, I mean, of course. So the short answer is yes. We get a lot of dopamine from our recreational screens, is what we call it. So that's just stuff that we use, whether it be YouTube or short form videos or on our social media, whatever it may be. But it's bigger than that, because while many young people these days in the workplace are getting distracted by their recreational screens, they're also being set up to fail by large organizations that are putting multiple communication tools in their hands. So, all of the instant messenger platforms and the email and everything that flies around, that's not delivering dopamine from a neuroscience perspective, but it sure is fantastic at distracting you from doing deep and meaningful work, because you get pulled from pillar to post, and you never actually get the time to just really settle in there and do the work that you need to do. So you get to the end of the day, and we hear this constantly when we're delivering workshops around the world as well. We get to the end of the day and all I've done is meeting after meeting, and then I've got no actual time to do my real work. So it's both of those. It's recreational screens delivering dopamine, and it's within an organization that we're really setting our staff up to fail and burn out.
And the other thing, I suppose, is the fact that because of, that thing of which we cannot speak that happened a couple of years ago that had everybody at home, that I'm not going to go on, my phones are going mad. But we'd been kind of going down that route anyway. And it is much easier to fire off. It used to be easy to fire off an email, so I'm proving my age. But to fire off a WhatsApp, because you don't have, you don't have to have that connection. Oh, I sent you a WhatsApp. Or it's much easier to have a Zoom meeting with people because it doesn't take that much commitment. Whereas if you do a face-to-face conference when you do your speeches, or when you do a face-to-face meeting with people in a boardroom, that's a commitment. You've got to be there with time. You've got to be prepped. You've got to be present. There's nothing going off sort of in the background to distract you. And perhaps that's one of the things that we really have lost.
Oh, look, I couldn't agree with you more. And this is something that I really, with my sort of neuroscience and psychology background, am really big on, because ultimately, when we looked at the research before writing Busy Idiots, the book, we found there's this real lack of oxytocin that goes off when you're doing those video meetings. So I'm not saying that you can't work from home. I work from home sometimes. But the challenge for the modern workplace is that doesn't deliver as much oxytocin in a social situation, which is a feel-good chemical. But it's a feel-good chemical of proximity and physical proximity. So that means that as humans, we still need that physical proximity. So for these work for home companies, which we work with a lot of them as well, I'm not saying you can't do it, but it is a unique challenge because your staff are going to feel more burnt out and lonely unless you can have ways to address that.
The other thing is, of course, it's great. Oh yeah, I want to work from home. I was involved sort of 25 years ago with that first work from home, change a spare room when graphic designer, this is pre-internet. So that's dating me, Brad. Yeah. It was all, you have time for your kids and the whole thing, but we haven't really had enough time to discover what this is doing to people, because as much it's the whole thing about human existence. Yeah, you hate people. Oh, I can't stand the people at the office. However, creativity comes from around the coffee machine. Trust me, I'm an 8-a-day man, or the water fountain. Because you cannot say we're going to sit down and have a brainstorm, because invariably nothing will come out. And also, you might think that you're a cyber warrior, you need nobody, or you're a maverick on the edge of cyberspace, but you need connection, because without connection, physically and mentally, and you can back me up on this, you will start to deteriorate, to atrophy.
Yeah, absolutely. And Zoom fatigue, as it was sort of dubbed, especially during that period that we're not talking about, Giles. Certainly Zoom fatigue was a heavy one there, because what we found is that it actually takes a lot more energy and brain space to read intricate cues here. You're not getting the facial expressions and the body language and all those little soft skills that you would get around the water fountain or the coffee machine. And that's where there's the lack of creativity. So again, hybrid workplaces and work from home, it can be achieved, but organizations have to think really uniquely about that. Just going back to a point from earlier as well that ties in here, one of the problems with modern workplaces is that we bombard people with these litany of communication tools. You've got Slack, you've got WhatsApp, you've got Zoom, you've got Teams, you've got all of these different communications. So people just seem to get bombarded from every which way. And again, most people that we work with tell us, all I do is just meeting after meeting, comms after comms. I get to the end of the day and I haven't actually done any of the work I'm supposed to do. So that's what Busy Idiots is about, is we teach people how to manage their tech, manage their time and productivity, and manage their teams to be more productive and more connected.
Two things here. The art of saying no, or I'll get back to you. Yeah, and the art and the joy of being unavailable, because this is another thing we've seen, because you know, at the end of your hand, you've got a device that somebody can call you at 7:30 when you're on the way back. Oh, would you mind doing that? So you can never properly switch off. But again, we kind of fear saying no unless we're a hard-bitten salesperson. But if I'm working in a creative department, in an accounts department, that can be the hardest thing to say. And that is where you get the avalanche of stuff coming in.
Look, absolutely. And so the art of saying no, in the book, we refer to it as be careful with yes. Because, you know, again, it's just flipped on its head there. But be careful with yes is just all about that idea that we don't have to say yes to everything. And in fact, we can be tactful about that. We can say to our boss, because one of the sections here, Giles, is called Manage Your Busy Boss. Because sometimes, you know, many people at home that are burnt out will be saying, well, that's all good and well. I can read up about how to not be a busy idiot, but what about my busy boss? So one of the tools that we use is be careful with yes. And that is, look, saying to your boss, yeah, I can work on that project that you just asked me to do, but you've actually got me working on this thing here. And, you know, I just want to be clear here. Which one is it that you want me to do? Because this one's going to be late if you take me off that. And typically you're going to find that with that open communication and clear, straight thinking, straight talking, then you're going to get a better outcome from that. So again, that's more about managing your busy boss. When
you started sort of becoming a keynote speaker as well, were you kind of amazed by the response? I mean, you must have thought it was going to happen, otherwise you wouldn't have done the speeches, etc. But when you go into, you know, these big companies who you think, you know, have got these are major names internationally, you think they've got the whole thing basically sorted out. Were you quite sort of happily amazed because you can work with this rather than people just saying, I just can't cope anymore, and, you know, I'm thinking of walking out, or productivity, and just to sort of take a pause is enough that can be sometimes, Brad?
Yeah, I think what's been really cool about the Busy Idiots project and book is that I'm doing it with my good friend and colleague, Joff Outlaw, and he comes from a business background. So he's been working in the big consulting firms for the last 20 years. And so he's very familiar with all of this. But me coming from a psychology and a neuroscience background, you're right. Some of it, especially with the first few large organizations, I was a little bit surprised. I did sort of say to Joff a couple of times, geez, I really would have thought there'd be a little bit more psychological awareness or just awareness of communication. And that's not always been the case. So we are on a mission there. And that's part of, you know, our project and our workshops is we really try to help teams connect better and communicate better, because you'd be surprised how often these huge organizations with very intelligent, very skillful people, but they're not even doing the basics of connecting a team together about how are we going to all communicate. So one of the tools that we use is something called lion time versus tiger time. So lion time in an organization or a team is about working as a pride and coming together. And when are we going to do work that's together? Tiger time, of course, as it is, it's solo work. It's, hey, everyone's just going to chill out and we're not going to bombard each other. We're going to use this section of the day where we're all going to do our individual thing. And so even that, it seems like kind of common sense to a neuroscience and psychology guy, but I guess a lot of people find skills like that and techniques like that quite innovative.
Here's the thing, just struck me, because Joff comes from a business background, 20 years, and I'm just thinking, I'm in my late 50s, so I'm an Xer. But a lot of these bosses, so a lot of bosses will be my age, late 50s or even older. And the technology has moved so fast that we weren't taught this at school. We weren't taught this in management college. The internet was something that nerds did in their room. So do we have to learn? Because it's fair to say, oh, well, the young folk can deal with it and they're all snowflakes. Do you find that people from, you know, Generation Xers have to really think about how they lead? Because the skills that we learned in the 80s and the 90s no longer apply, or have to be tweaked. A nice way of putting it. And is that also what Joff brought to the table?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I've been pleasantly surprised with the older generations and the C-suite generations. I think they are very reflective. Typically, you find that if someone has made it to a leadership of a large organization, even medium organization, they are going to be pretty reflective people. And so this is more about us tackling busyness across an entire organization. And I guess what I would point out there is that we titled the book Busy Idiots as a bit of a call to arms, a bit of call to action here, because it is a bit of a divisive term. People sometimes sit there and go, geez, mate, you're calling me a busy idiot. What are you doing? But really, Joff and I are the first ones to claim that we have been busy idiots in the past, both of us. And so we call ourselves recovering busy idiots. Sometimes last week Joff was really busy and so he fell off the wagon, I said to him. And so we're out to really just demystify the term. And so one of the fantastic things is when you go into some of these organizations and the leaders even have a bit of a joke at the how to manage your busy boss, some of them are quite fantastic about it. They kind of put their hand up and go, oh, yep, I'm the busy boss. We've all got to work together. So it's really been surprising and it's been refreshing how organizations are willing to change. They all want to tackle this busyness.
So obviously, people listening at the moment, I mean, presumably they're thinking, oh, well, when you finish this, a talk with Brad, you can't move because people are out there stopping and sniffing the flowers outside in the flower garden outside. But give me some, because somebody's probably thinking out there, I work in a real estate firm. I'm always doing this, that, and the other. By the time I've done my listings and my socials and put a thing and gone, hi guys, and so I've got no time to come up with a project. So, what are the first steps? And again, it presumably it's a process. It's not just, you open, get to halfway through and your life immediately changes, because this doesn't work like that.
Yeah. I mean, so as I mentioned before, there are three key elements to busy idiots. So manage your tech, manage your time, and manage your teams. So manage your tech, look, I could go on about this for days and days, as I do. But if we just look at some of the key ones here, what we have in there is what we call a sustainable blueprint, a sustainable tech blueprint. And what we take people through is Sustainable Awaken. So that's all the persuasive design elements that drag you into using your technology more at work and home. But then also we get people to do an audit, which is a fun little questionnaire, which gives them a bit of a label as to how far down the rabbit hole they've gone with their technology. And teams like doing that as well and having a bit of a laugh at each other's scores. But what we're getting at is the harvest trees. So sustainable harvest is about decision-making trees where if you know that you have a problem with email, for example, what the harvest trees get you to do, and there's about a dozen of them in the book, is they get you to go down the line and think about all the techniques you can use to challenge that. So for the first one, for example, in my research lab at Macquarie University here in Sydney, I have my emails on my phone and I was using this harvest tree a few months ago. Do I need those emails on my phone? Is there anything that I'm going to miss from a research lab perspective if I don't have them on my phone? The easy answer is no, I don't need access to them. So I just delete them from my phone. If you do need them on your phone, do you need the pings and notifications? If the answer is still yes, then is there a period of the day where you don't need them? Can you have a downtime on your phone where you can cordon that off, or the weekends? If the answer is still yes, then my joke in the book is that you need to recheck this because you might be a cyborg, right? I mean, ultimately, you are a robot if you need to check emails 24/7 for work. So that's just one such example for manage your tech. And there are other ones for manage your time. As I mentioned there before, manage your busy boss, be careful with yes, all these sorts of ones. Manage your team is a little bit more tricky. We've got a full blueprint that we have in there called a team pact. But this is more of a nitty-gritty getting in there with a team. It's about what lines of communication you're going to use, how you're going to work together, and how to have a healthy balance in all of that. So that's what we do with teams.
How long is it going to take you, though? Because your neurons are going to be going off left, right, and centre. If you've been, pinging, and you see them pinging stuff, this, that, and everywhere. I don't have pings on my phone, and it's on Do Not Disturb from 6 o'clock onwards. But your physical being and your neurological being will just go, what's going on? I mean, it presumably takes a couple of weeks just to get yourself smooth, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know exactly how long. We don't have that research. But when we do functional MRI scan stuff, it is quite fascinating. I mean, if you look at some of the neural pathways that get rewired, and so I won't go too far down this rabbit hole, but fundamentally, even like a neural pathway for reading body language and facial expressions. So if you are always on your phone or your screens and you're just doing sort of mindless, mind-numbing stuff, at some point we lose the ability. We're not as quick with our neural pathways to all that social stuff. So we know that it probably takes something like 6 to 9 months to grow back if you have really heavy use. And, heavy use is pretty common. I mean, if you look at the average sort of teenager or young adult these days, recreational screen use is up around somewhere 9 to 11 hours a day. And so that's a mammoth amount. And that's why we have this rewiring of our neural pathways.
Fascinating stuff. The book is called Busy Idiots. Learn the brain science and productivity hacks to get away without the stress. Listeners, you can download it, or you can order it, from our own virtual bookstore. I advise we do. I advise that half of us in here probably need to do it as well. It's by Brad Marshall speaking today and Joff Outlaw. And what a name that is as well. I mean, that's a business card I'd like to have.
It was not by design, Giles, but Marshall and Outlaw. I mean, there's got to be something in that.
Exactly.
Right? That's marketing gold.
I can see the planes, coming down from the Blue Mountains. It's Marshall and Outlaw. If people want to find you online, I know there's a website because I've been looking at it. So where can people find you, Brad?
Yep, so busyidiots.net, or you can find us on Instagram as well. And it's available in all good bookstores throughout Europe and the world. It should be coming up in an audio book in around July as well.
Marvellous. So you can just plug it in and let the world float by. The book is called Busy Idiots. It's by Marshall and Outlaw, Brad Marshall and Joff Outlaw. Brad, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you this morning, my friend.
Thank you, Giles. Cheers.